morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe.
All right, y'all. I'm still getting together. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Glasses, headphones, hat. All right. I think I'm dressed and ready. Good morning, everybody. Today is December 17th, 2024, and you were in the Java Cafe this morning. Listen, I know a lot of activity on social media last night in reference to this whole Slades thing. I know there's an expectation that, I'm going to comment on it. I am not right now. And that may be a good thing. But we've had this topic scheduled for about 2 weeks or so now. And my philosophy around what we're talking about today, and in reference to what happened the last couple of days in reference to this whole Slades thing, my philosophy is no matter what, or no matter who or what you're doing, you ought to be safe. We've, over the past couple of weeks, have been promoting prevention of STIs and HIV. And I am excited today to bring Harvard University Center for AIDS Research into the room. I think it's so appropriate. We talk a lot about STIs. I've been sharing that gonorrhea, syphilis, and chlamydia is up, even with our 65 plus population. Imagine being 65 and finding out you've contracted HIV. You're contracting STIs. You are very susceptible to also contracting HIV. It is not what it used to be when I was growing up. I will go so far, and this is not the opinion maybe of my guests or to say it like this, but it's no longer a death sentence. There are ways to prevent it, and even if you contract it, it is manageable. So I'm excited today to bring some guests into the room that work in this space, that work in prevention and advocacy and research. Research is important. We talk about it all the time, clinical trials and things like that. So without further ado, and you all saw yesterday, I was trying to pronounce Dr. Ima's name, and she's just going to be Dr. Ima today. And when she introduces herself, she'll tell you the proper pronunciation, because you all know we believe in doing that right here. And so, Dr. Ima, if you could introduce yourself, and we're going to bring the other two members of the team in a second, but just introduce yourself and describe the climate of HIV in 2024 in one word.
In one word. Okay. So first of all, thank you, Jimmy, for having us on. My name is Ima Ahankai, as you mentioned. I am an infectious diseases physician. I work at Massachusetts General Hospital, and I also direct the community engaged research program for the Harvard Center for AIDS Research. Lots of words. It means that I am really interested in us partnering with our community to basically end the HIV epidemic. And so one word is that it's possible for us to do this. It's actually possible for us to end the HIV epidemic. So the word is progress and possibility. 2 words.
Possible, progress, and okay. We got 3 of them there, but I'm looking forward to hearing the updates. We're going to bring Julia and Lawrence in as well, because I used to be a health educator back in the day. I worked in medicine, and things are very different today than what they were. And so we're going to get into the work that you all are doing, updates and research. And so I'm going to go in order of my screen. Lawrence, if you could introduce yourself, and I'm going to give you a different question. If you could describe the state of describe understanding that no matter your preference, orientation, how are we doing with educating people? I need you to mention one word for that after your introduction.
So I'm Lawrence Vincent, he, him, his. I currently work in the Corporation for Supportive Housing, a national organization, but I've been doing this work and fight against HIV and AIDS for the past almost 20 years or so. The word I would describe, man, that's a good one. I think generationally poor.
Okay. We're going to come back and get some context from each of you. Dr. Ima gave her context, and Julia, I would like to welcome you as well. And let me give you a different question. If you could describe the status of working with our elders around HIV prevention in one word, how, after your introduction, you describe it with our elders.
Okay.
I only laugh because I saw Julia's face. We've been working on Lawrence's too. We've been working on tech stuff, and then something happened. Julia, you're good. You're good.
I will try to keep my face. Listen, Jimmy, thank you for having us. I think this is going to be really fun. My name is Julia Trippin. I also work with Dr. Hankai at the Center for AIDS Research under the CERP program, which is Community Engagement Research Program. I'm also a lead, as Lawrence is a lead community council strategist. And I previously worked as I'm currently working or just finished graduating as a community health worker, and I am also a standardized patient. So I do a number of things that help to get information into the community. I spent a lot of my career working in a policy center on community engagement. That's my passion. What's the status with working with elders? Well, in terms of HIV in particular, my work with elders right now is more general. So I'm engaged in the community. So I'm in contact with a lot of elders. A lot of people aren't talking about sex and sexuality at that age. And that's one of the reasons I started a YouTube channel, because I want to begin to really address what it means to be an older woman living with HIV and looking for romance or wanting love and deserving love.
Thank you. I'm going to say to my audience, just because of things that went on, anybody not, control comments and whatnot, but this is a respectable space and folks are going to be transparent and share their journey. And so everybody that's commenting, the rules of engagement here in the Java Cafe. And so Dr. Ima, you talked about progress and possibility, and we have some notes. I have to shout out our good Wanda, who in the background made this happen. So Wanda, thank you so much for handling this. And we have some notes here. But I wanted to really go into, when you say progress, from your research and what you're doing, from where we were to where we are now, how you said the word was progress. Why do you say that? Well,
I say that for two reasons, and I'll talk specifically about Massachusetts in this regard. We had an all-time low in the number of people newly diagnosed with HIV over the past 10 years. So we got to an all-time low around 2019, and it's remained at that low place. So that's progress. It means
even post-pandemic?
Well, post-pandemic, there may be a little bit of a caveat, because some of the data collection, we won't know that until the next year or two. Okay. But just looking on the scale of like the past decade, we'll call it pre-pandemic, past decade, we've made a lot of progress. And that's in part due to a number of things. One, we know that there's excellent HIV prevention out there. We have PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis. We know that there is excellent HIV treatment. So people can take one pill once a day. Some people have injectable medication that they're getting once every 2 months. And we know that when people are treated effectively, they can't spread HIV. So there's excellent prevention, excellent treatment, and people who are on effective treatment are not spreading the HIV to other individuals. So that is progress. And that means that these medicines are so good that people can live a normal, long, healthy, thriving life. That's a different space than we were a decade or more ago. So that's why I say there's progress.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Lawrence, I want to come to you because in my introduction and in us trying to schedule this date, ideally we wanted to come last week in November, maybe the first week in December. It didn't work out. And like I say about Women's History Month, Black History Month, days are good, affinity days to bring attention, but this is, Julia mentioned, and folks are living. This is a everyday topic that folks are living with this, folks are working to prevent it, and folks are living thriving, healthy lives. And so I want to back up a little bit, because one of the things that came out of equity and not discriminating against those with HIV was World AIDS Day. And so, Lawrence, I wanted to ask you if you can just talk about, we're a couple of days behind, but if you could talk about the significance of it. And Dr. Ima, we're going to go into that PrEP, because as a youth worker, I've been, a lot of the young people and everybody's popping PrEP, but that's only, one it does. Anyway, Lawrence, World AIDS Day. We'll come back to Dr. Ima and also Julie as well about what she's doing. So Lawrence, World AIDS Day and other things that you're doing there at the center.
Yeah, so I mean, World AIDS Day continues for the whole month. I mean, it's one day, but we take the whole month so that we can come together to remember, reflect, and recommit, right? We honor the lives of those we lost, celebrate the resilience of people living with HIV, as you stated, and push forward in the future of being stigma-free, working on inequities and this epidemic as a whole. This fight has been shaped by our leaders. I mean, we stand on so many wonderful shoulders. And if you allow me, I just want to talk about two, because when in the intro question, you asked me around how are we doing with that conversation. And I said poor. The reason why I said poor is because leaders like who I'm going to talk about, we need to find those replacements. And the two folks that I'm highlighting today is State Representative Gloria Fox and Irvine Golson. For nearly 30 years, Rep. Gloria Fox served as a 7th Suffolk District with boldness and vision. She was a tireless champion for Black and Brown communities, advocating for resources where they were most needed, whether it was housing, healthcare, or public health initiatives. Long before it was accepted, Rep. Fox stood up for people living with HIV, fighting stigma, pushing the systemic changes that we needed. She was not just a leader, she was part of the community. She presented and was unrelenting in her advocacy. And then also Irvine Golson, who passed away in 2020. She serves as the Deputy Director of Health Services at ABCD. I mean, Irvine dedicated her life to empowering people, particularly young women of color, through education and support. She led courageous conversations about HIV prevention, reproductive health with a personal touch, and left behind a legacy of compassion and transformative care. And a lot of this work may not necessarily be transitioning into the next generation because programming and funding. So that's why I mentioned when I said poor. And I just want to make sure that in this World AIDS Day month, we're remembering that a lot of these folks we're talking about, some folks won't be remembering. That's because a lot of the work has been done. And I'll think about one of those things. So like patient-centered care. It's a team-based, whole person approach, right? But that came from the response in HIV. Early HIV care teams understood that treating the virus effectively, they had to treat the whole person. And that meant addressing mental health. That meant addressing relationship, nutrition, just relationships and how you feel about yourself as a whole. And it became the gold standard in delivering care in community-based health centers across the Boston and the United States as a whole. So HIV has done a lot in terms of informing care for everybody and not just for folks who are living with HIV. Additionally, we have the new Reprieve study that came out. That was one that came through the Harvard CFAR that was led over at MGH, where they enrolled over 7,000 people living with HIV that showed that statins, which are the medications used to lower cholesterol, were very, very, very effective in reducing heart disease and increase or reduce the risk of heart disease by 35%. I'm reading that off the paper right now, so I apologize about that. But you know, people living with HIV are at higher risk for heart disease, and if you add being Black or brown on top of that, you're even higher on that. So this was a profound research that came out that is looking at, you know, really extending the lives of folks who are living. Absolutely. I personally go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just the power of research and how it's in all of our hands. I personally was in the Gardasil research when it was around, and that research focused on HPV vaccine availability to prevent HPV-related cancers for people living with HIV. And today, thanks to those studies like Gardasil, you know, we know that vaccine is a life-saving tool to protect millions of people worldwide from preventable cancers. So this is how we remember HIV on World AIDS Day, is not just the disease itself, but how it has actually increased and extended the lives of people around the world, and not just those centrally located, those folks living with HIV.
Absolutely. I want to also name, and Dr. Ima, you can go into this, and Julie, I thank you for your patience. But Dr. Ima, one of the major things that, if I'm right, the COVID vaccine, if I'm right, that mRNA and MN.
All right.
Yes.
You got it.
the mRNA technology,
Yes.
right? Yes. So I think, yeah, we all recognize in the HIV community and want the broader community to understand that our ability to respond to the COVID pandemic worldwide was really on the backs of the infrastructure created to do HIV research. And so we have the community of people living with HIV, of HIV research organizations like the Harvard CFAR and many others across the country to thank for being able to develop, test, implement COVID vaccination in this country. So you're right. I think that's another wonderful example to add to the ones that Lauren shared with us.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, I mentioned in the beginning that, we heard a lot about this when I was growing up. I used to be a health educator. And so I wanted to ask you to just, go over the HIV basics, the prevention, and also the treatment. I am familiar with the term that U equals U. Undetectable, there's a science behind that. And so with where we can, we have varying levels of awareness of things with our audience. And so where you can, just maybe remind folks that what HIV is, the prevention, and one of the most recent updates is to a point now where HIV positive folks can have, and I don't normal, can live and can thrive with those and be in partnership with those who aren't, HIV positive. And so please give us an overview. And Julia, again, I thank you for your patience. We're going to give you a couple of seconds after Dr. Ima, a little bit extra because you've been so patient with us.
No problem. And I'll get to these facts. And I do that every time I unfortunately have to diagnose somebody with a new HIV infection. The first thing I tell them is that you can live a long, normal, healthy life with HIV, that HIV is not a death sentence. And I agree with you. You said this at the top of the show, Jimmy. HIV is not a death sentence in this day and age. We have excellent treatments that are very simple to take. And for those of us who manage this health condition for patients, we say it's actually a lot easier for me to manage someone's health when they're living with HIV than it is to manage diabetes. Because if you have HIV, I'm giving you a pill to take once a day or an injection to take once every 2 months. And I want you to overall be healthy. But diabetes, that's tough. You have to change your diet. You have to do all these different things. Diet is so much harder to change, right? So it is a very manageable chronic disease. So that's number one. And if we get you on treatment early, then you live a long life. You live a normal lifespan. That's what the data tells us. If we can diagnose you early and get you on treatment, you can live a normal lifespan. So that everybody should know. So that's number one. Number two is that HIV is preventable. We talked about PrEP early in the hour, pre-exposure prophylaxis. So if you take pre-exposure prophylaxis, it works 95% to prevent HIV from sex. It works about 75% to prevent HIV from injection drug use. So we have these excellent ways to prevent HIV. And if you want to learn about PrEP, please look up PrEP. We'll share resources because PrEP is available to anyone who thinks they may need PrEP. Really, it's not just for one person. It's not just for one community. It's not just for one race. So we have PrEP. And then as you mentioned, U equals U. So undetectable means untransmittable. If you have HIV and you're taking your medicines and we call your viral load undetectable, that means that we take a teaspoon of blood and look for the virus and it's not there in numbers that a typical lab can detect. That's what undetectable means. It comes from being on treatment. If you have HIV and your virus is undetectable, you cannot spread HIV to another person. So being on treatment is another form of prevention. So undetectable is untransmittable. So we can prevent HIV, we can treat HIV, and if you get HIV, you can live a long, normal, healthy life.
I thank you for that, Dr. Ima. And I will, a couple of the links weren't here, but we're going to make sure because people pop in and out, and I want to make sure that folks have information. And so if you want more information, if you want to reach out to the team there, I'm going to make sure that we put a hyperlink in the comments. And I haven't even went into the comments just to check in with folks. But Julia, you have you said in the beginning about being transparent. It was in the, piece of working with the elders. You started the YouTube channel, but it did not go beyond me that you said you have been living with HIV. And so to Dr. Ima's point, can you just, if you don't mind, where you're comfortable, is just talk about I don't know when you were diagnosed, but has treatment changed? And that I'm struggling with this word normal, but I get, what it means, Dr. Ima, as well. But can you just talk about life for you, Julia? And we are giving you a couple of extra minutes here because we did hold you up a little bit. But Julia, as someone here representing the community, living and thriving, I'm going what's good, sis?
Well, first of all, thank you. My patience is because I'm listening to and working with people who are real, stellar stars who can really describe it well. I've been living with it for over really about 40 years. 10 years in, I was diagnosed, got into treatment back 1997. I was on the cocktail with Crixivan, the very first drug. And it's been a very interesting journey. I think, though, when I look at, what has worked for me and where my passion lies, first, as Lawrence said, it's standing on the shoulders of people who, before me, struggled, who may not be known. One is Belinda Dunn. And I remember seeing how angry she was, and people talked about that. And when I got the first Belinda Dunn Award, I talked about having experienced that anger and why. And I went in search of answers to many things, like, what's happening in the Black community? What's happening in my own family? What is the pressures and the forces that cause us to be angry, hurt each other, maybe not protect ourselves? And she showed me that there's something about this illness that I need to be aware of. And so I led with an open heart and open mind and wanting to learn. And it was community engagement, treatment, and mental health care that has really transformed my life. And then connecting with really powerful, groups like the Center for Social Policy, where I learned about data and how data is collected and who's looking at data, who develops the questions. And it's that process of intellectual exploration that I think has been extremely helpful. And then connecting with folks like Harvard who are doing this incredible work. It's been difficult, but 30 years in, 30 years, I think I've been, on medication about 30 years. I'm doing well. I do want to push back a little bit on we are thriving, yes, but I was reading about the first woman that has been cured. There's 2 men and 1 woman. I know that Ima and Lawrence are probably aware of this. They were able to, the 3 people who had HIV, I guess they seroconverted, all had cancer, but they were finding that through stem cell transplants and blood cord stem cells, that they were actually able to eradicate HIV from their bodies. And they said that this is, however, not useful for everyone. It's because it's risky and it's for people with serious, illnesses. And I'm thinking, isn't HIV serious enough? And why isn't it transferable to the rest of us? It's probably very expensive, but I think that is something that, should be looked at. The other thing is, I noticed.
Can I ask just one clarifying question? I'm not an expert in the space, but they were quote unquote cured, not taking meds anymore, not considered undetectable. Interesting.
Not taking meds anymore. Yes, that is correct. I'm, certainly jump in, but my thing is I want to increase the engagement of people from the community to be at the table. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was an argument that ensued about, interracial relationships and is it destroying the Black community? And something happened that was very interesting. A woman came on and she began to debate whether Black women buy more cosmetics or not. And then she challenged people to look it up, and I did. Turns out she was wrong saying that we did not. We do. And I thought about, why? But then she went on to say something like, when people were weighing in, other people were looking it up too. She said something that struck me. She said, that data is a lie. And I think that's like the smoking gun that we need to also think about. Everyone is being swayed by misinformation and not really knowing how to get the real information. And myself, I look up and get information from different sources. And who do you trust? How do you know? You've got to know who is asking the questions, who is at the table, who is interpreting the data, who is writing the reports, who is telling us what they mean and telling us the truth. And this is, for me, why my passion around engagement is so strong. I'm honored to be part of this committee and this work at Harvard. It's changed my life. It's a game changer. And it's why I push for community engagement.
You can see all of you, but I think Julia, you can see and sense the passion and a sincere, and Lawrence mentioned the Irvines and Gloria Foxes and whatnot. Their mantle.
But I just want to say,
let me get the screens right. Their mantle, is kind of going that way. So,
yeah.
Go ahead, Lawrence.
I just want to mention, and in this honor of World AIDS Day, that I do stand on shoulders. When I was diagnosed, I was young, Buck, and but I saw a movie that Julia was in, and it's actually on HBO right now, around her, speaking about her and her experience. And it is a wonderful piece to watch if you haven't. And I forget the name of the movie, Julie, if you want to give it a shout out, but it is there. And she has done amazing things. So there are living champions that are here with us right now that have done amazing work, not only for HIV community, but for women in the community as well.
I appreciate. Go ahead, Julia, and then we're going to go like Dr.
Right. And I consider myself, people may lift me up in a different way, but I consider myself a placeholder. And we need young people. Yes, because I'm getting old. Look at my hair, it's gray. What am I to do? But we need young people, more women to get engaged and really help direct the dialogue, direct where research is going, and interpret data, and that's my passion. So yeah, there are other women like Sylvia Brewer, who passed also, and another woman, Brenda Belazaire. Those two ladies may not be as well known, but they were brilliant, excellent. I love them and the energy they brought to the work. So yeah, we need to remember those unsung heroes. And I also want to mention two other unsung allies. One is Wanda Allen, who's not here, and she's the associate director of the SERP project, and as well Mark Ignaciola, who is what is his role? He's the administrative director of the CFAR. Their support, he's a supporter and she's an ally, and both of them together have created an incredible foundation for us all to be here today and to go forward with this work.
I just want to say, a little bit in reference to, what we brought up earlier about the Slades thing and whatnot. I see a community here that you all have created. And Dr. Ima, your eyes got big, so obviously that resonated with you. Before we go there, I wanted to ask you from a clinical standpoint, as Julia gave deference to you as well as the clinical person in the room. Can you just give a little clarity about the cure? Because I want, wrong information gets out. Oh, they can cure HIV, and then people out here.
Yeah, I will do that. And I know there's actually something circulating on social media that's kind of confusing this point. As Julia mentioned, there's a post on social media saying there's a cure for HIV. It costs $40,000. And that's not the case. And that's probably confusing information about long-acting PrEP studies. There's a medicine called lenacapavir. It's a prevention medicine that prevents HIV. And the result of that study was recently shared, and I think that got confused. There are a little handful of cases of people who have been cured with HIV. And those individuals, like Julia mentioned, have severe blood cancers that required what's called a bone marrow transplant. This is a very serious procedure in which we give you medicine, chemotherapy, and radiation to basically destroy your blood cells. And then you get a donor who donates stem cells to you to repopulate your blood cells. That's a really risky procedure because you lose all of your immunity when that happens. So it's really difficult. But people who have HIV and have the serious blood cancer and need that treatment for the blood cancer, lymphoma, leukemia, are ones who've gotten this type of treatment. And the benefit is that they get cells from a donor who does not have HIV. So now the cells that have repopulated their immune system do not have HIV and can fight off the remaining cells that do. So we've seen in those literal handful of patients that when they come off of HIV medicines, they have no HIV in their system. So it's a very unique circumstance. But there is ongoing research to try and find an HIV cure. So that's an active area that many researchers at Harvard and other places are still exploring. So that's the quick and dirty update on the HIV cure.
I
I'd like to jump in.
Go ahead,
I'd
Julie.
like to jump in and say thank you for that clarity. So I'll be patient and wait until they figure out how to bring that. You know,
well, or we can be impatient. It's okay. We could be impatient about it, but yeah.
It is
because it's not easy taking this. I remember 30 years ago when I started taking medication, looking at all these pills and saying, can I do it? Can I sustain this for 30 years? But I will tell you that, you figure out how to be adherent and stay with it. My one of my doctors recently said, because I'm just so tired of taking meds. And she said, Julia, don't stop. Don't stop. And she's someone I trust. And that's an important piece of our healthcare is who do you trust? Who do you listen to? And then towing the line and then being in situations and environments where I can learn what's happening. So thank you.
I just want to mention our movie star that's in the Java Cafe. It was the movie Positively Naked.
Yes,
Julia.
That is correct.
I got people in the audience that they'll research. Someone says something they on the internet, put the Teresa all the way in Worcester. So we're gonna have to watch Positively. Now, wait, hold on. Wait a minute, hold on. Okay, that
is correct. It's a wonderful piece of media. If you have not showed it, if people shedding their clothes and just being who they are, and you seeing them for just being them and being people, not being a disease, not being this, and they did it as a piece of art. And it was beautifully done. And that is to say, not just around how they highlighted Julia, but with the media and the art that Julia produces as well. She's done a bunch of one-woman shows, just in curation of talking and pushing the dialogue around HIV and AIDS in the community, particularly for Black women. So just highlighting that.
But know that I was one of only 3 women that showed up. One was a Hispanic woman. It was me, myself, and a trans woman. And so when I say more women should be involved, I was shocked that no other women would come forward. I know getting naked, literally naked, for me was a real challenge, but I needed to do that to deal with other issues that, again, put me in line of, putting myself at risk, shame, history of abuse, all of that stuff I was trying to shed as well as clothes. And so I did that. There is also a documentary that was done by M-Vision on me recently that's going to be coming out in February. And so it talks about, who I am, my lifestyle, and just, living with HIV.
Thank you, Julia. And thank you for being so transparent today. We're going to get ready to wrap up. And I want to make sure, one, folks that know if they want to reach the center, you can do so by contacting the center at their email address at cfar@harvard.edu. Make reference that you've seen them on Java with Jimmy so they know. But I wanted to make sure that folks know about any activities or outreach efforts. But one last thing in this thing about being positively naked, my old pastor back in the day, not him, I'm sorry, one of the elders at the church said that if you want to get a good perspective, whatever your beliefs are, how God sees you, she said, get your happy self naked in front of a mirror. And you'll get and so that's an exercise that folks need to do. I think some folks last night and whatnot, they need to get in front of a couple of mirrors and do some examination, but we're not going to go there. But Lawrence, if you could just tell us some things, Julia will come to you and Dr. Ima will have you close us out around just things that are coming up. I'm so glad that we're bringing back attention to this because while there is progress, it's not perfect. And if it's not, there is progress, though it's not perfect, and we still need prevention. So, Lawrence, what's going on? What's the center doing? I know you're active in community. Like, what's coming up with the center, if any public events or anything like that?
So we have not planned any public events right now, but what I want to do is open this up for a chance for folks to understand that their participation in research and what we're doing in terms of community informed research is here. So I invite everyone to reach out to us because as we're developing out our new council for the Center for HIV/AIDS Research at Harvard, we want to ensure that the people are at the table. And so that's you all really coming and showing up the way Julia has for years, the way the Irvines have,
You
the way that the Rep Fox have, the way I have in my little short journey of being on the Community Advisory Board. We really encourage you to come and join the table, and we'll have more. And I hope we have the availability to come back, Jimmy, and talk more about when we're opening it up and showing our own studios and doing research dissemination.
Studio.
That's the other.
What
that's
studio,
the
y'all?
piece. Yeah, so we're going to be doing our own studio as well, but this is going to be that important piece that we couldn't get done, like when the syphilis studies happen, when we talk about dissemination, what actually is the outcome of our studies. This is where we're going to be having some of this work going. We're going to be making sure that folks are equitably representative, that the research is coming back to us, and we actually hear what the outcome of that research is and how we move forward with that information that we find. So that's what I can promise that we are doing as Julie and I are leading this effort from the community perspective.
Julia.
He summed it up very well. I would just point out that, I would like to hold a World AIDS Day in 2025. I've done 4 of them in the past. They're a tremendous amount of work. And with the support of Harvard, I believe we will be able to hold another big event to bring the community together. And my last one, we brought the community together with researchers. And that stands as one of the best days of my life to see that. I'm planning on holding a 70 in the summer birthday party. Yes, 70 in the summer. And outside of that, yes, engaging folks, getting folks to get engaged in our work. That's going to be my focus this year.
Okay. Julia, I love you. What's it called? You just bubbly and just the energy. But it is a testament to what Dr. Iman all have said, that you can thrive and live. And we appreciate the energy and everything that you're bringing to this space. Go ahead, ma'am.
I just want to say one last thing. Years ago, when I talked about engagement, when I was working at the Center for Social Policy, I talked about the role of love. And people were like, they raised an eyebrow. Love, what do you mean? Well, when you're engaging people, you want to create an environment that's welcoming, that's warm, that's supportive, that they can learn in, that they don't not make them feel stupid, and that they feel cared about. I feel that love coming from this team. And as I admire Wanda and I admired Mark, I admire you already, and I know we'll come to love you just as much. I love your energy, and that bubbliness and energy you see from me, it's because I'm working with, look at Lawrence, and he is so humble. I'm like, Lawrence, you've been there as long as I have, and you're just brilliant. I love this team. That's where that energy comes from.
Y'all make me want to come over there and work with y'all.
You need to join us. Yes.
When y'all build that studio.
Absolutely. I'm going to hold you to that too. That's my role on the team. I will hold you to that.
All right, Lauren. Dr. Ima, take us home. What can we look forward to? What would you, and I'm going to step out a little bit beyond this subject, but if you could also, with things that came up last night and going on, and even in 2024, I hope you don't mind. Mm-hmm. Tell us what's coming, but then also if you could just give any advice to parents who, first of all, let me just clarify what I'm about to say. One's orientation is not an automatic, remember some years ago, they classified this as their disease and stuff like that. I'm going here with you because of what went on in Slades, and there are young people, separate issue, but I'm going to draw this scenario here. A young person is they're in puberty. They're wandering, they're experimenting and doing different things. They want to go talk to their parents. And some parents aren't able to have the conversation in a manner that the child feels supported. Mm-hmm. That child deals with that. And then unfortunately, through depression and just issues that come with that, they go out, start practicing behaviors. In some cases, Lawrence, there's been things like this. They get taken advantage of, not protected, not educated. And then you have an 18-year-old who is HIV positive. Again, not what it was years ago. Everything that led to that experience. So kind of far-fetched in asking you to close. Tell us about the center, but I think that you're well apt. And before you do, I think it was Lawrence that wants to say one thing, because I want you to close out with a message to parents. So Lawrence, say what you wanted to say, and then Dr. Ima is going to close us out about what's going on at the center, but also anything you wanted to say to parents around, even if a child comes to them 40, 50. I'm HIV positive. How do you, as a parent? So Lawrence and then Dr. Ima.
What I will say is that my actual life mimics that, and my mother just hugged me and took me to do what she needed to do. So that's the response that
Can
we
you
will
clarify
hope.
when you said just in recent, or it took a while, or
When,
when you told her she
when I
just
told my mother
yep.
that I need to go get tested, my mother said okay, and she took me straight to the doctor. There was none of the extraness. There was no judgment. There was no, I hear my child saying he's in need, and this is what I need to go do to ensure that my child is taken care of. And me not having to think about all of the extraness because she took care of that. And that was the thing. And I wanted to, my 30-second thing is I wanted to say earlier, you asked about that conversation intergenerational about sex. Me and Julia have those conversations. I'm hoping that we do have a series where we actually talk about this from a young perspective and an older generational perspective of sex. But yeah, but in relation to this closeout, that was my experience. And having a parent just to love on you and support you without the extraness, and just do that job that they have been blessed for us to do, was the biggest thing that put me in, set me up for success of who I am today.
I appreciate it, brother. And speaking of moms, I appreciate my mom who supports me and loves on me and whatnot. So, Ma, glad you're in the room, and others. Dr. Ima, I put a lot on you in that closing, but I know that she said yes.
Well, I'm going to say a few things. One, one of the reasons we're here is because despite progress, there remains one very pervasive thing that we've all touched around is stigma. And I mentioned, but don't want to minimize this idea of leading a normal life, because normal isn't having to hide and run from stigma. And this diagnosis still carries that weight very, very substantially. So I don't want to minimize that in any way, because stigma is actually killing us. And in addition, this epidemic is still disproportionately impacting Black and Brown individuals. And so part of the reason that I am so fueled and committed and passionate about this work, and the role of Julia and the role of Lawrence and all of the advocacy and action and trust that they bring to the table, is because we need to do this work in the communities most impacted successfully. And so through our program, through the Harvard Community Engaged Research Program, that is the point of it. It is to work with communities, not to sit in our ivory towers and say we have all the answers, but to listen to the wisdom of the Julias and the Lawrences, and to bring it to the table and say, this is how we need to approach this to actually address this health problem. And that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're about. And we're talking about doing research studios, Jimmy, research studios that we'd love to have you be a part of. But it's the whole studio concept is one in which we say, okay, you are an expert. If we need to learn about media, we're coming to you, Jimmy. If we need to learn about how to address HIV in a community, we're talking to people who are living that experience. So this is what we are bringing to the table. And Lawrence mentioned, and if you're interested in learning more and think you have a voice that you can share with us, please reach out. In addressing the bigger question that you posed to me, which is a challenge, I think about this on a couple of levels. I think about our community, which is what I was just talking about. When I say our, I'm talking about there are Brown people on this call, on this podcast. I'm talking about our Black and Brown communities. We lead with love for our community. I'm stealing, Julia, your words. We are leading with love for our community and saying we want to do things differently for our communities. But I think we can see that at different levels. It's our community, it's our family, it's our brother, it's our sister. It's leading with love in any of those, because we can't get out of this epidemic if we don't deal with it in our community in a successful way. We can't deal with all of the myriad of issues, whether it's HIV or it's mental health, if we don't lead with love. So we do it at a community level, we do it at a family level, we do it with our brothers and sisters, we model it for each other, we share that positivity with each other. And that's why I'm leaning into the positive, because there is progress and there is possibility. And I think if we can come together, we can be that support. Lawrence shared a beautiful story about his mother. That's not everybody's story. But can you imagine Julia wrapping her arms around that kid that didn't get the experience that Lawrence had? So we have to lead with love for each other. That's what I share back to you as my reflection.
Julia, Martin, and Dr. Ima, I really thank you. We didn't do slides and a whole bunch of numbers and data, but what we did find out that there are people, first of all, shout out to Harvard.
Okay.
A whole bunch of Black and brown people. But it is important because we didn't get into clinical trials. That may be a little bit of the data piece that Lawrence was talking about, but I really appreciate the love that we sense from all three of you for community and ensuring, not talked about as much, and we haven't eradicated it yet. But with folks like you at the helm there at Harvard, with all that comes with that, we are hopeful. There's a couple of introductions I would love, like Lawrence, we need to make sure that Dr. Ima meets Curtis from Boston Black Pride and whatnot, and make a connection because any inroads that I can help the community, I'll be glad to do that. So thank all three of you for being with us today. Julia, we're going to say happy early birthday to you. Make sure I get the invite to the 70th.
I'm trying. Yep.
And I'll make sure you get that studio invite when we have that studio going. So just want to make sure we wrap that around.
This isn't going to be a one and done. Isn't going to be a one and done. And so I appreciate all three of you. Dr. Ima, though it was a challenge, you did it. And I'll just end this with you all, that it's love. That's a tenet and pillar in the Java Cafe. I say that love is the foundational thing. Sometimes we have to practice tough love, and sometimes we have to love from a distance. But at the end of the day, it's still love. So thank all three of you for being here. And again, give Wanda my best. I hope Wanda, if you're watching, y'all wave to Wanda. Hi, Wanda.
Okay.
Thank you all. And we will definitely be in touch, and happy holidays to each of you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You all don't forget, if you want to follow up with the center, please go, and you can get them at the email address that is on the screen there. I really appreciate all of you tuning in today to be a part of this. I think it was so apropos that, despite a lot of the conversation that's going on in reference to SLADEs and whatnot, no matter what you're doing, we need you to be safe. STIs, HIV, and also unplanned pregnancies. Let that settle. Thank you all for the comments today. We will be back tomorrow speaking with Mayor Michelle Wu. We're a little off schedule just because, she's the mayor and she got her own offspring coming. So the mayor's coming with us tomorrow at 10 a.m. Please make sure you plan to join us. We're going to check in with her. Tomorrow night, we are talking about Black maternal health. This is really ending up to being a kind of a health week. But we're talking Black maternal health with Maureen Scott from ABCD Health Services, and also Katura Edwards Robinson and Rachel Priest from the Epidemic Center. It is cuffing season, and it's so apropos that they were here today talking about cuffing safely. So it's important to cuff safely. And on Thursday, we have a shot of Java at 10 a.m. And that's where I do my catching up, some commentary with you all. We are dedicating Thursday's show to the Bennett family. For those of you that may remember, coming up on Friday, it has been a year since the mayor of the city of Boston apologized to the Bennett family. Speaking of that, Thursday night, 9 p.m., Black Java, no sugar, no cream with Joey Bennett. So we haven't put the flyer out yet, but I'm letting you all know we're having a Black Java, no sugar, no cream with Joey Bennett on Thursday evening at 9 p.m. That's it for me today, everyone. We are going to get ready to go. Yes, Miss Teresa, thank you for all that you do. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. She also said, Lawrence, my mom had the exact same response when my 18-year-old sister said she thought she needed to get tested. I will never forget the unwavering love. And I wish I had saw this when they were on. Thank you, Miss Teresa. Pastor Marion, thank you. All of you that are here today. I think I saw Sharon Cornelius. Falasha, good to see you in the room. Falasha has an event coming up on January 25th. It's working with the faith community, and hold on for 1 second. I'm going to tell y'all right now. Hold on. Hold on. All right, I done messed around and opened up the thing. Falasha's event is on January 25th. I opened up the phone and saw something else that got me distracted. It's on January 25th at Charles Street AME Church, and she is, hold on. Falasha, put it in there if you're still. Here it goes. Kingdom Business Seminar, Vision, Provision, Prosperity. The historic Charles Street AME Church, January 25th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It is free. You can contact Falasha Harrison. She is actually on right now. And so if you click, this is her comment here. If you click her page and go to her inbox, she will send you the information about what you call it. I'm tired. That was a good show because it just hit me. I'm tired. All right. So Denise, thank you so much for being with us today. Y'all welcome her to the Java family. That's it for me, everyone. And we will see you guys tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Mayor Wu, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. with ABCD, Thursday morning with me, and Thursday night with Joey. So we got quite a few shows this week. All right, folks, have a great day. Thank you for being with us. And again, we'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Peace.
Microphone check 1 2. Here we go. Java with Jimmy live at the City Winery. Microphone check 1 2. How you doing? I am well. Are you? We just here to have a good time. We're here to have a good time with everybody, hanging out at City Winery. I'm going to perform.